Hi, and welcome to a special edition of After Dinner Conversation. I am your host for the day. I'm the only host for today, as weird as that is, Kolby. Um, and we have finished season 3, and I decided before going into season 4 that I would do a recap of the season 3, and answer any reader questions that we've got. We get emails, I don't know, not all the time, but certainly on a pretty steady basis. And I thought I would try and answer some of those. So this is not our usual podcast, is the moral of the story. So if you're looking for us to talk about our short stories and the meanings and all the things, just tune into the next one or tune into the last one or whatever. But this isn't it. This is an end of season 3 summary of where's the publication, what's going on, how are things going, what's our path forward, and it's sort of like a frequently asked question sort of thing. By the way, if you have questions, you can always email them to me at editor@afterdinnerconversation.com. And when we do these at the end of season 4, maybe one of your questions will be one of the ones that I answer then. And of course, I respond to all my emails too, so you can always email me. Okay, so I put together the last, I don't know, I haven't been keeping them forever, but the last questions that we've gotten in the last while. And I thought I would try and answer some of them. There's about 8 or 10 of them. So this will be our sort of frequently asked questions thing. Okay, first question is, how did the publication get started? Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, they're all good questions. I don't mean to whatever, you know what I mean. How did the publication get started? Well, it got started, I hate to say this, but a little bit by accident. Sorry, I'm drinking while I'm doing this here. I am a writer, and I'm a big fan of science fiction and Star Trek and sci-fi and all these sort of things. Not because I necessarily like science fiction, but I like the questions that I didn't know this when I started watching it, but I liked the questions that they could get us to ask about our own society, right? Like if you watch a Star Trek episode, all you have to do, or any science fiction show, it doesn't have to be Star Trek, all you have to do is say, on another planet where the people are like this, and then you can create any scenario you want. And what I very quickly realized is when you're watching good science fiction, oftentimes you're watching a morality play, not science fiction, right? It's about today. It's about the ethics and the philosophies and the questions of today. How do we deal with materialism? How do we deal with racism? How do we deal with sexism? How do we deal with all these kinds of interesting questions? And so that carried over into my writing, which ultimately is what carried over into the creation of the publication, because I just wanted to read more of the stuff that I enjoyed reading. Flowers for Algernon, The One Who Walked Away from Omaha, Harrison Bergeron by Kurt Vonnegut. These are all the stories that I love to read. Not that I don't read other stuff. I like Harry Potter as much as the next person, or Game of Thrones or whatever. But, I don't know. They're just not my thing. I consider them a work of effort, not necessarily a work of art. And I know people don't agree with that, but at any rate, that's why I started the publication. All right. Next question. What kinds of stories are you looking for? That kind of goes to the last thing I just said. We're looking for stories that make you think. The genre, totally irrelevant. Can be science fiction, fantasy, contemporary women, children's literature, westerns, erotica, doesn't matter. We'll take anything. But because that's not our genre. Our genre is the through thread through all of that, right? It's the philosophy behind it, right? And honestly, if you wrote something that wasn't, because we publish a lot of fantasy sci-fi, probably half of what we publish is fantasy sci-fi, which is a shame because I would love to get more writing of other types, right? Whatever, suspense, mystery, doesn't matter to me, right? Historical fiction. We're looking for things that ask interesting ethics questions in a way that's a little bit open-ended, right? If the answer is obvious, that's no fun. It has to be something that, spurs conversation. Question number, what are we on here? Number 4. What are some of your favorite stories? I assume from this season? And what are your most quintessential after dinner conversation stories? I assume this is from somebody just wanting to know what we are looking for, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, let me see if I can pull up some because I don't necessarily remember them all. So some of the ones from this season that I really loved, and it's not saying they're the best necessarily, but they were the best for me. I really loved Idle Horns. That was a story about a demon who asks why is he torturing people. I liked that for a couple reasons. One, I thought it was just funny and lighthearted and well written, but also, it goes to the sort of the fairness of punishment and the nature of punishment, which is a very sort of classical philosophical question. About the fairness of evil, right? And hell. Should you get an eternity of punishment for a moment of sin? And I just thought it was great. Some other ones that really stuck out for me. I really liked In Their Image. That was the one about the teddies on another planet. I liked that it had really good questions about purpose, right? It was all about the teddies were like, it's to fulfill my purpose. And I thought that was really interesting because they had no need for other religions, right? Because they understood theirs. And I don't know, I just really resonated with me. And the fact that you could fit 6 foot tall walking teddy bears of multicolor into a story where they had different smells based on their emotions. I thought that was super cool. I thought that was good. Another one that really stuck out for me was the Waiting Room. I really liked that one. That was towards the end of season 3. That was actually our winner of a writing competition. And that was the people that were in the waiting room waiting to be assigned new dreams by the government. I thought that was really interesting. The idea of getting assigned a new dream and a new passion, and how and the questions about, should you do what you're good at or do what you love? I thought that was a really interesting question. I will say, though, that I've asked other people what their favorite stories are over the year or two. And they're always very unique. There's no pattern that I've found at all. The stories people like tend to be related to the things that they're working through in their own mind, life, philosophy. And so I think I'm saying that these are stories that I liked, but I could definitely see someone else at a different place or with different questions finding other stories interesting. I really don't think season 3 has a bad story in it at all. I think as we've gotten more and more submissions, we've been able to be more and more selective, and it's been really great. Teddy and Roosevelt, I really liked. I didn't think it was our strongest philosophical story, but I thought it was so well written. I'm a huge fan of Teddy Roosevelt, by the way, and it just, like, the first time I read it, it made me cry. I read it again 6 weeks later to prepare for the podcast. It made me cry. If you get a chance to read it, it's a phenomenal story. All these, by the way, are available on Amazon. What's the most quintessential after dinner conversation story? I've thought about that. The one that I always recommend to people to get a sense of what we read, what we publish. There are 2 stories by the same author, actually, David Schultz, who now has his own publication. He publishes other stuff. But one is Rainbow People of the Glittering Glade, and the other one is Brahma's Endgame. If I had to tell people, like, what's the most... Hi, this is Kolby, and you are listening to After Dinner Conversation, short stories for long discussions. But you already knew that, didn't you? If you'd like to support what we do at After Dinner Conversation, head on over to our Patreon page at patreon.com/After Dinner Conversation. That's right, for as little as $5 a month, you can support thoughtful conversations like the one you're listening to. And as an added incentive for being a Patreon supporter, you'll get early access to new short stories and ad-free podcasts, meaning you'll never have to listen to this blurb again. At higher levels of support, you'll be able to vote on which short stories become podcast discussions, and you'll even be able to submit questions for us to discuss
during these podcasts. Thank you for listening, and thank you for being the kind of person that supports thoughtful discussion.
Rainbow People of the Glittering Glade, and the other one is Brahma's Endgame. If I had to tell people, like, what's the most perfect sort of what we're looking for and sums us up, those would be two of them for sure. I think those are both from season 1, maybe season 2. And there was another one I can't think of the name of off the top of my head. An Infinite Game. I really liked that one too because it was really short and it was really clever. I thought that was really good. Those are all very quintessential stories for us. How can I get involved in after dinner conversation? Oh, that's a sweet question. Yeah, we have a whole cadre of readers that that are preliminary readers for the stories, because we get a lot of stories submitted now, probably 5 a day on average, I would say, and they pile up real quick. So if you want to be a reader, that would be great. You can look through the slush piles and find the ones that sort of get escalated to the next level. If you wanted to intern, we just had somebody email us just saying, hey, can I intern and help out? We put them on our social media stuff. You can just email me at editor@afterdinnerconversation.com. Let me know your interests. Let me know what you want to do, and I'll set you up. What else do we have here? Why did you switch over from short stories books to a monthly magazine? Also a good question. You guys are really observant. Yeah, so we did. We still publish the short stories on Amazon. There's 75 on Amazon that finish out season 3, but season 4 and season 5 won't be on Amazon. They'll only be in the magazine. And then in the anthologies, we'll have them there as well. And the reason we did that was just for financial reasons, really. We found that people don't really buy short stories on Amazon, even at 99 cents. But if we package 6 of them together, then we can sell them as a magazine. And the hope was, and it continues to be, that we can get people into a subscription model. And so they'll pay, $1.95 a month or $19.95 a year, which is what our subscription is. You get 6, 7 stories emailed to you every month. And that way you always know you've got stuff coming. You've always got it in a really polished format. And it also allows us to generate a revenue stream we can depend on. The other cool thing about doing a magazine is it's allowed us to get into new outlets that don't do short stories. So we're on Readly, we're on Zinio, we're on Magster. We're now in libraries. And these are all things that we couldn't have done as short stories, but we can do as a monthly magazine. So it turned out to be the right choice. We'll continue to do the monthly magazine, and we probably won't put new short stories on Amazon unless they're in the magazine or in an anthology book. So yeah, just a money reason. Let's see here. What else do we have? What can I do to help out with the publication? We've already talked about that one. What can I do to improve my chances of getting published? It's a good question. We get a lot of, so the first thing you should do is this is probably not just for us, this would be for anybody. You should read some of our stories. Go on Amazon, right? If you go, just type in afterdinnerconversation.com or afterdinnerconversation into Amazon, you'll see 50 plus short stories now that we have on there for free. Read some of those. Read some of the ones I mentioned as our quintessential stories, and very quickly you'll understand what we're looking for. It kills me when we get these sort of blind submissions of people who don't know what they're submitting to, what kind of magazine. They almost never get published because it doesn't work that way. And I assume that's true of every publication, right? Like your odds go up if you've read a few stories in that publication. So that'd be my first suggestion. So yeah, that'd be it. We score all of our stuff on two different scoring systems. Number one, is it good enough to publish? And number two, is it the kind of thing we publish? We score on a scale of 1 to 3. 1 being just a flat no, 2 being like, okay, yeah, I guess so. And a 3 being like, yeah, I know this is it. This is what we're looking for. So stories that score a 3 for the writing quality and a 3 for this is the kind of thing we publish. That's maybe 1 in 50 stories that we read. But we will sometimes publish ones that are what we would call a 2-3, right? Good enough writing, but a really interesting, clever idea. We rarely will publish a 3-2, one that's well written, but doesn't have a really clear idea that fits our thing. So now you know our lingo, right? We're looking for 3-3s or 2-3s. Yeah, there you go. That's what we're looking for. That's the best way to get published. We do have readers, by the way, who start off as readers so they can get better at their writing and then submit to us or other publications. That is a really good way to improve your writings, to be a reader, either here or at any other magazine. 3 questions left. How do you decide what gets published? Oh, just so that system is what we do. Our initial readers will read it. If it scores a 1 in either category, it just automatically gets a rejection letter. So the rejection letters come quick, right? You can get a rejection letter from us in 2 or 3 days. If it passes that first criteria, then I'll read it personally. I read everything myself after we go through our initial readers, and then I'll make the final decision. We're not so big yet that I have to outsource making the final decision. So really, every story we publish, I have read it personally as a final sort of decision maker, and I have decided, like, yes, this is on brand, right? This is what we do, which is super cool. I hope you don't ever get so big that I can't do that. Next question. Will you ever publish novels or longer length stories? Interesting timing for this question. Originally, I'd have said no because the idea is the idea of the story, right? What's the question it asks? And if you're getting beyond 6,000 or 8,000 words, the amount of reading you're requiring me to do per the number of interesting questions you're asking tends to get too diluted, right? I don't want to read 100,000 words to get one interesting question. So 3,000 to 5,000 words seems to be our sweet spot. We've gone as high as 7,000 or 8,000. However, Amazon just came out with a new thing called Vella, which is going to be released shortly. And we are going to be doing our first novella on that platform. But it's a unique story in that it has lots of little arcs with lots of interesting ethical questions. It's about 55,000 words. So look for that on Vella when it comes out, whenever that comes out. I don't know when they're releasing it, but they're already starting to collate stories, and we're getting our stuff in that. I don't know if that'll ever be a thing, though. I don't know if longer stories will ever be what we do, but we thought we'd give this one a try and see how it went. Our last question. How can we support the publication's mission? Oh, that's really nice. So our mission is, as you can tell from our website, is to encourage thoughtful reflection and discussion to improve our thought process and understand why we think the way we think, right? Basically to have a humanities 101 class, right? How do you support that? Well, one is you buy the magazine, you subscribe to the magazine, you share it with a friend, you encourage them to quit freeloading off of you and get their own subscription. We also have a Patreon page. That doesn't bring in a ton of money for us yet, but it does bring in money, and it's what made a lot of our freedom possible. You can go to patreon.com/afterdinnerconversation. If you've got a publication or you're on social media, links are always great. Doing a review of us is always great. If you send us an email, we'll send you a free copy of the magazine to review. Those would be the main things. So I'd say Patreon, getting a subscription, sharing it online with friends, all that sort of stuff. Listening to the podcast, that's always awesome. I think that's about it. So those are all of our questions. I thought I'd go over a few statistics just to finish up here. This year, let me just double check this. It seems like a huge number. In the last 12 months, that's probably a better way to say it. We have had about 100,000 short story downloads from Amazon and other places. Many of those are free, but about 100,000 of these have been read. of our short stories have been read now. Our podcast is coming up on 10,000 listens, so considerably less on the podcast. We only get 1,000 a month on the podcast, which is a shame. We work hard on it. Our magazine continues to grow, but is not huge yet. We just passed 120 subscribers. Not a ton. It's only 6 months old. So, but it continues to grow every month. And I think that's where we're at. As far as money goes, we still lose money every month, unfortunately. Even as lean as we are, nobody gets paid in the publication. We're still losing, $300 to $500 a month just in all of our costs. But we are hopeful that 2021, by the end of 2021, our hope is with more subscribers to the magazine, with more people on Patreon, that we will be at the break-even point. Not at the anyone gets paid point, but at least the break-even point for our hard costs. So that's our big goal, and that's it. Again, you've been listening to my season 3 conclusion. If you've got any questions you'd like me to answer at the end of season 4, email them to editor@afterdinnerconversation, and I will listen to them then and there. Thank you for your time, and thank you for listening and supporting us. And yeah, that's all. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye.
If you've enjoyed listening to this, please like and subscribe. It helps us out a ton. The vast majority of people haven't liked and subscribed, which means maybe it shows up in your algorithm, maybe it doesn't. So don't leave that to chance. Just go ahead and hit that button, and we'd sure appreciate that. And that way we can keep doing what we're doing, and you're not left to the whims of some algorithm. Thanks.